Jordan Scoggins wrote Polishing the Gilt Easel for Georgia Backroads magazine in 2015. This is Jordan's story about the old art of crayon portraits, edited for brevity and narrated by the magazine's editor. My family is deeply rooted in the Appalachian foothills of northwest Georgia. Photography is the most direct way for me to connect with the past, to ancestors like Elizabeth Sewell Scoggins and William Delaney Scoggins. I am lucky enough that a number of antique images have survived within my family, like this photo taken on the old J. Per Year farm. These images represent the mothers and fathers, farmers and laborers, and businessmen and tradesmen who helped shape the Georgia we know today. Some of the most interesting images I have are crayon portraits or crayon enlargements, like this one of Martha Ann Goodson Pope. The first time I examined a crayon portrait up close, I immediately noticed that while certain parts of the image looked entirely photographic, other areas appeared to be drawn by hand. This is a defining characteristic of crayon portraiture. Crayon portraits are neither purely photographic nor purely drawn. The medium is a hybrid form that occupies a nebulous space and therefore is not widely emphasized in our histories of photography. Crayon enlargements came about due to the limitations of photographic technology. It was difficult to enlarge photographs, such as this one of the Zachariah Roy Hawkins family, at a large scale. Enlargements of that size became extremely faint and not suitable for display on their own. Thus, the interdisciplinary process of using crayon to draw upon faint enlargements was born. In the early days of crayon portraiture, mid-19th century, the photographic enlargements were so weak that the final crayon portraits appeared more painterly, requiring more of the detail to be rendered by hand. Examples towards the end of the 19th century and into the 20th appear more realistic as the technology allowed for more clarity in photographic enlargements. Details, however, were still filled in by hand. The crayon portrait of my second great-grandmother, Martha Ann Goodson Pope, of Villanow, Georgia, was made around 1890. From a distance, the image looks like a typical photograph, but closer examination reveals the hand-drawn elements that are characteristic of crayon enlargements. The actual photographic details are faintly exposed and somewhat blurry, such as the earring and the wisp of hair coming off the side of Mrs. Pope's head. The hand-drawn elements are more precisely defined and clearly visible around the perimeter of the ear and in the details of the eye and eyelid. This detail, also from the same portrait of Mrs. Pope, shows the faint photographic exposure of her dress. Hand-drawn details, including the buttons and decorative stitching, are added to bring out the embellishments of the dress. This photograph is an example of a source photographic image. And this is a crayon enlargement made from the same photo. At 20 by 24 inches, it is a rather large example. The ability to compare the original photograph with the crayon enlargement is a rare experience. This is a late example of the medium, as the photo itself would have been taken around 1907. The babe in the mother's arms is my great-grandmother, Ruby Mayoma Hawkins Holcomb, who was born that same year. The crayon enlargement could have been made even later than that. Ruby was born in and spent her entire life in the Dirttown Valley area of Chattooga County. They were a family of farmers, so the Hawkins family portrait represents a typical family of rural northwest Georgians at the turn of the 20th century. The crayon portrait as memorial was a common practice. Annie Lee Scoggins died in 1904 at age 17 in West Armuchee Valley near Subligna. I speculate the crayon enlargement was made after her death to keep her memory alive. No such portraits are known to exist of her 8 siblings. The flower Annie Lee wears is a common prop in such memorial portraits and may have been added by the crayon portraitist. My second great-grandfather, Micaiah Felton Pope of Villanow, was so fortunate as to have a crayon enlargement of himself. He deemed it sufficiently important to include it in his will. I will and bequeath to my present wife Josephine the last picture taken of testator, which is enlarged, all the other pictures to my 3 sons. This crayon portrait has been passed down through the family over the generations. That the enlargement was important enough to be included in Pope's will meant that its sentimental and aesthetic value make it a rare heirloom treasure. Crayon portraits were relatively fragile. Here's an example of an unframed portrait that, due to the fragile nature of the medium, has experienced significant deterioration over the years. This is my fourth great-grandmother, Nancy Elvira McGee Peck of Lumpkin County, Georgia. I digitized this image, which was in the possession of another family member, in 2010. Since that time, the image has experienced even more significant deterioration, having come apart in several pieces. The next example is a framed crayon portrait. This one happens to be a double portrait of my third great-grandparents, William Delaney Scoggins and Elizabeth Sewell Scoggins of Dirttown Valley in Chattooga County. Even though I have seen my family's crayon images my entire life, until relatively recently I had never heard the term crayon portrait. It was not until I dove into family history research and began uncovering the antique photos hidden in closets and drawers by members of my family that I began to wonder what exactly those peculiar enlargements peering from the wall were. These relics are valuable from both a family history standpoint and for their unique qualities and distinctive contribution to the history of photography. Polishing the Gilt Easel by Jordan M. Scoggins appeared in the winter 2015 issue of Georgia Backroads magazine. The article includes considerably more information about the history of crayon portraiture. Jordan also describes the interesting placement of a crayon portrait in the William Faulkner short story A Rose for Emily. You can order a copy of the magazine at georgiabackroads.com or by calling us at 800-547-1625. Thank you for watching this Georgia Backroads program.